कुरान के मालिक गुजारिश है तुझसे मेरे दिल में कुरान बसा मेरे मौला।
अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम या अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनू ला तकूनू कल्लज़ीना कफ़रू व क़ालू लिइख़वानिहिम इज़ा ज़रबू फ़िल अर्दि औ कानू ग़ुज़्ज़न लौ कानू इंदना मा मातू व मा क़ुतिलू लियजअलल्लाहु ज़ालिका हस्रतन फ़ी क़ुलूबिहिम वल्लाहु युह्यी व युमीत वल्लाहु बिमा तअमलून बसीर। O believers, do not like those disbelievers who said regarding their brothers when they embarked on a journey or on a battle, that had they been with us, they would therefore not have died nor been killed. O believers, do not utter similar to what the disbelievers have uttered, so that Allah may place regret in their hearts over this matter. And Allah gives life and causes death, and Allah is observing your actions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explaining in this verse that He is the one who gives life and causes death. So staying away from a journey or from engaging in jihad will not prevent death. In addition, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is observing your actions. One should always bear this in mind. وَلَئِن قُتِلْتُمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَوْ مُتُّمْ لَمَغْفِرَةٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَحْمَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ. And indeed, if in the path of Allah you are killed or die naturally, so forgiveness from Allah and mercy is better than their entire accumulated wealth. So in accordance with this verse of the Quran al-Majid, to die whilst making the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being in the state of worship, being engaged in the work of Islamic education, etc., constitutes as dying in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of this will result in receiving divine forgiveness and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is nothing that can be compared to forgiveness and the mercy and kindness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَئِن مُتُّمْ أَوْ قُتِلْتُمْ لَإِلَى اللَّهِ تُحْشَرُونَ. And if you die or are killed, so only towards Allah you are to rise. فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ فَاعْفُ عَنْهُمْ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَوَكِّلِينَ. So what a great mercy it is from Allah that, O beloved Muhammad, you become soft-hearted towards them, and if you had been harsh and hard-hearted, they would have therefore certainly been anxious in your surrounding. So forgive them and intercede for them and consult with them in matters. And when you come to a firm decision regarding any matter, so have trust in Allah. Indeed, Allah loves those who have trust in Him. The beautiful and flawless character of the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being discussed here. So what a great mercy it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, O beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because of the great mercy of Allah, you became compassionate and soft-hearted towards them, meaning towards the believers. You demonstrated tolerance towards them when they disobeyed you in the battle of Uhud. Whereas if you had been harsh and hard-hearted, they would have certainly been nervous and comfortable in your surroundings and moved away from you. So forgive them for their shortcomings and intercede for them in the majestic court of your Lord, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may forgive them. Furthermore, consult with them in matters, for example, find out their opinions in the matter regarding the battle and otherwise, in order to win their hearts over, and so that you may be imitated in this respect. And indeed, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would frequently consult with the beloved companions. Moreover, when you come to a firm decision regarding any matter after the consultation, then have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِن يَنصُرْكُمُ اللَّهُ فَلَا غَالِبَ لَكُمْ وَإِن يَخْذُلْكُمْ فَمَا وَالَّذِي يَنصُرُكُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. If Allah helps you, then no one can overpower you. And if He abandons you, then who is there who can help you? and only in Allah the Muslims should trust. Meaning, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assists you against your enemy as he did on the day of Badr, then there is no one who can overpower you. But if he abandons you as on the day of Uhud, then there is no one who can help you after him. Therefore, the Muslims should put their trust only in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and should only seek help from him. Meaning, there is no other God from whom you can seek help from. وَمَا كَانَ لِنَبِيٍّ أَن يَغُلَّ وَمَن يَغْلُلْ يَأْتِ بِمَا غَلَّ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ ثُمَّ تُوَفَّى كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا كَسَبَتْ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. And it cannot be imagined of any prophet that he would conceal anything, for example, spoils of war, etc. And whoever conceals it, he will come on the day of resurrection with what he concealed. Then every soul will be recompensed in full with whatever it earned, and they will not be wronged. In the commentary, it is mentioned that when some red velvet cloths went missing during one battle, and some hypocrites began to say, perhaps the Prophet alayhi salam took it. Thereupon, this verse was revealed. It is not possible and cannot be imagined of any Prophet alayhi salam that he would commit dishonesty by concealing spoils of war, etc. All of the Prophets alayhi salam are infallible. So do not even presume this of him at all. Hence, whoever conceals the property of others and uses it for himself, he will come on the day of resurrection with what he had concealed, carrying it around his neck. Meaning, there is no escape from the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to ascribe dishonesty or suspect any prophet of being dishonest is kufr. أَفَمَنِ اتَّبَعَ رِضْوَانَ اللَّهِ كَمَنْ بَاءَ بِسَخَطٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَمَأْوَاهُ جَهَنَّمُ وَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ. So will the one who followed the pleasure of Allah be like the one who brought upon himself the wrath of Allah, and whose place is hell? And what a despicable place of return. Following the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means by being obedient and not defrauding. Be like the one who brought upon himself the wrath of Allah by way of being disobedient towards him. Hum darajatun inda Allah wallahu basirun bima ya'malun. They, meaning the people, have different ranks in the court of Allah, and Allah observes their actions. The people of paradise who followed the pleasure of Allah, meaning the rida of Allah, and the inmates of hell who brought the wrath of Allah upon themselves by being disobedient to him, have different ranks in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means they are not equal at all, and Allah observes their actions. لَقَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِّنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَإِنْ كَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Allah has indeed bestowed a great favor upon the Muslims, that He sent amongst them a great messenger, meaning the Prophet Muhammad, from themselves, who recites upon them His verses and purifies them and teaches them the book and wisdom. And they were definitely in open misguidance previously. We learn from this verse that the blessed advent of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this world, meaning his blessed Mawlid, is the greatest favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from amongst all of his bounties, because the word manna means great favor, as this word has not been used elsewhere in the Quran with regards to the other favors and bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَوَلَمَّا أَصَابَتْكُم مُّصِيبَةٌ قَدْ أَصَبْتُم مِّثْلَيْهَا قُلْتُمْ أَنَّىٰ هَٰذَا قُلْ هُوَ مِنْ عِندِ أَنفُسِكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَىٰ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. What? When any calamity strikes you at Uhud, whereas you had caused twice as much in comparison to that at Badr, you therefore start saying, where has this calamity come from? Say you, O beloved Muhammad, that it has come from yourselves. Indeed, Allah is able to do everything. What is it that when any calamity strikes you, Muslims, as it happened at Uhud, when 70 of you were martyred, whereas you had caused twice as much in comparison to that at Badr, slaying 70 of them and taking another 70 captive? you start saying in amazement, where has this calamity of defeat come from? Hence Allah says to his beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that say, O beloved, that it has come from yourselves because you abandoned your battle positions and were thus defeated. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to do all things. This includes the giving of assistance and the withholding of assistance. And He recompensed you for you not following the command of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam through His forgiveness. وَمَا أَصَابَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْتَقَى الْجَمْعَانِ فَبِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ وَلِيَعْلَمَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And that calamity which struck you on the day when the two armies met at Uhud, that was by the command of Allah and in order that He may distinguish the believers. Meaning He wanted to make known the believers for their patience and determination. Therefore, do not complain and stay pleased with the decision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلِيَعْلَمَ الَّذِينَ نَافَقُوا وَقِيلَ لَهُمْ تَعَالَوْا قَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَوْ ادْفَعُوا قالوا لو نعلم قتالا لاتبعناكم هم للكفر يومئذ أقرب منهم للإيمان يقولون بأفواههم ما ليس في قلوبهم والله أعلم بما يكتمون. And the calamity struck in order to expose those who became hypocrites. And when it was said to them that come fight in the way of Allah or drive away the enemy, they answered, if we knew how to fight, or they said, if this battle was justified in our view, so we would have definitely sided with you. And on that day, they were closer to open disbelief than to their falsely expressed faith. They utter with their mouths what is not in their hearts, and Allah is aware of what they are concealing. The calamity that struck you at the Battle of Uhud was in order to expose those who turned into hypocrites, meaning munafiqs. When it was said to those hypocrites after they had fled the battlefield, namely Abdullah ibn Ubay and his companions, come fight in the way of Allah or drive away the enemy. Meaning just stand with us against the enemy by increasing the multitude of our fighters if you're not going to fight physically. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exposed them to be liars and says that they utter with their mouths what is not in their hearts. They say that they are Muslims, but in reality they are not. Because even if they had not known how to fight, they would have still fought, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is completely aware of what they conceal of their hypocrisy. الذين قالوا لإخوانهم وقعدوا لو أطاعونا ما قتلوا قل فادرءوا عن أنفسكم الموت إن كنتم صادقين. Those who said about their brothers whilst they themselves remained behind from battle that had they listened to us, they would therefore not have been killed. Say you, O beloved Muhammad, then prevent your own death if you are truthful. So they were saying that had the martyrs at Uhud listened to us and not gone for jihad, they would have not been killed. Allah replies to this misconception of theirs by instructing His beloved Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam that if you believe this, then prevent your own death if you are truthful. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. And those who are slain in the path of Allah, do not ever think of them as dead. Rather, they are alive with their Lord, receiving sustenance. This verse was revealed regarding the martyrs, meaning the ones who are slain in the path of Allah, defending their religion, that you should not even imagine that they are dead, as they are alive in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and their souls, meaning their arwah, are placed inside green birds who reside in the golden globes which are hanging beneath the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that take wing freely wherever they wish in Jannah, and that they receive sustenance, fruits and other blessings of paradise. فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله ويستبشرون بالذين لم يلحقوا بهم من خلفهم ألا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. The martyrs are happy over that what Allah has bestowed upon them through His grace, and are rejoicing for their successors who have not yet joined them through martyrdom, that on them is no fear at all, nor any grief. يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وفضل وأن الله لا يضيع أجر المؤمنين. They rejoice over the bounty and the benevolence of Allah, And this, that Allah does not waste the reward of the Muslims. Meaning, for every injury, they receive an abundance of rewards. And they are happy on this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not at all waste the reward of the Muslims. Rather, He rewards them greatly. الذين استجابوا لله والرسول من بعد ما أصابهم القرح للذين أحسنوا منهم واتقوا أجر عظيم. Those who immediately presented themselves to the call of Allah and His Messenger after this, that they had become wounded, for the upright and the pious amongst them is great reward. Meaning those who responded immediately to the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam to set out for battle when Abu Sufyan and his companions wanted to resume hostilities, meaning the blessed companions radiyallahu anhum agreed with the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam even after they had been wounded in Uhud. All the blessed companions radiyallahu anhum are upright and pious. Therefore, it is said that for the upright and the pious and those who feared to disobey the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam amongst them, there is immense reward. That is paradise. الذين قال لهم الناس إن الناس قد جمعوا لكم فاخشوهم فزادهم إيمانا وقالوا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. Those to whom the people said, the people, meaning army troops, have joined forces against you, therefore fear them. Upon hearing this threat, so as a result their faith was further increased in strength, and they said, Allah is sufficient for us, and what an excellent custodian of matters He is. So those believers to whom the people such as Nu'aym ibn Mas'ud said, the troops of Abu Sufyan and his companions have joined forces against you in order to eliminate you. Therefore fear them and do not go out to encounter them. Upon hearing this threat, as a result of this threatening news, the light of the faith of the blessed companions radiyallahu anhum was further increased, and the believers said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sufficient for us, and what an excellent custodian of matters He is. Meaning, hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. They set out with the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and arrived at the market fair of Badr. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had placed terror into the hearts of Abu Sufyan and his followers, so they did not turn up. The believers had merchandise with them, and so they traded and made profits. We should remember that at that time, Sayyidina Abu Sufyan was not a Muslim. Later on, he was fortunate to embrace Islam and become a companion of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Reading his name in Islamic literature as an enemy of Islam should not lead anyone to discredit or disrespect him. فانقلبوا بنعمة من الله وفضل لم يمسسهم سوء واتبعوا رضوان الله والله ذو فضل عظيم. They therefore returned with the favor and the bounty of Allah, that no harm reached them at all, and they followed the pleasure of Allah, and Allah is exceptionally bountiful. So the Muslim reached Badr to encounter Abu Sufyan and his forces, but the disbelievers did not come out of fear. Muslims stayed 8 days and traded therein. Then they returned from Badr with the favor and benevolence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala safely and with profit, and no harm touched them from any assassination or wounds. They followed the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by obeying Him and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam when they agreed to set out for the battle. Moreover, Allah is exceptionally bountiful to those who obey Him. إنما ذلكم الشيطان يخوف أولياءه فلا تخافوهم وخافون إن كنتم مؤمنين. It is only the devil who frightens you with his friends, meaning the disbelievers. So do not fear them and fear me if you are believers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in this verse, meaning the people that have gathered against you is only the devil, such as Nu'aym ibn Mas'ud, who is attempting to frighten you with his friends, the disbelievers. So do not have any fear for him, the hypocrites and polytheists, but you should fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fear abandoning His command if you are believers. وَلَا يَحْزُنكَ الَّذِينَ يُسَارِعُونَ فِي الْكُفْرِ إِنَّهُمْ لَنْ يَضُرُّوا اللَّهَ شَيْئًا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ أَلَّا يَجْعَلَ لَهُمْ حَظًّا فِي الْآخِرَةِ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. And O beloved Muhammad, do not grieve for those who run after disbelief. They will not cause any harm to Allah. Allah wills that no share be reserved for them in the hereafter, and for them is a great punishment. Meaning, oh beloved, do not be concerned for their disbelief. They will not cause any harm to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all by their actions. By adopting such actions, they only hurt themselves. And for such people is a great punishment in the hellfire. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ اشْتَرَوُا الْكُفْرَ بِالْإِيمَانِ لَنْ يَضُرُّوا اللَّهَ شَيْئًا وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Those who purchased disbelief in exchange for faith will not cause any harm to Allah, and for them is a painful punishment. Meaning, for such hypocrites and other disbelievers who have purchased, meaning they have taken disbelief in exchange for faith, this does not at all cause any harm to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for such people is a painful punishment. وَلَا يَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّمَا نُمْلِي لَهُمْ خَيْرٌ لِأَنفُسِهِمْ إِنَّمَا نُمْلِي لَهُمْ لِيَزْدَادُوا إِثْمًا وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ مُهِينٌ. And never must the disbelievers be under this impression that the respite, meaning the postponement of punishment we give them, has any goodness for them. We in fact give them respite only for them to further increase in their sins due to them denying the truth, and for them is a disgraceful punishment. ما كان الله ليذر المؤمنين على ما أنتم عليه حتى يميز الخبيث من الطيب وما كان الله ليطلعكم على الغيب ولكن الله يجتبي من رسله من يشاء فآمنوا بالله ورسله وإن تؤمنوا وتتقوا فلكم أجر عظيم. Allah will not leave the Muslims in that state in which you are now until He separates the impure from the pure. And it does not befit the dignity of Allah to give you, O common people, knowledge of the unseen. Yes, Allah chooses from His messengers whom He wills to grant the knowledge of the unseen. Therefore, believe in Allah and His messengers, and if you believe and do good deeds, then for you is great reward. So Allah separates the impure from the pure, as He did in Uhud, that He separated the hypocrites from the pure. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains in this verse that the knowledge of the unseen, the ilmul ghaib, is not given to common people, except that He bestows this to those of His messengers whom He has chosen. It is mentioned further in Tafsir Khazin that this verse was revealed when the hypocrites mocked the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for receiving knowledge of the unseen. The beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said upon this occasion, "They are taunting and doubting my knowledge of the unseen. If this be the case, ask me about all events that would take place from now until the day of judgment. I will inform you." We can elucidate from this verse of the Quranul Majid that Allah has conveyed to His beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is the most chosen, meaning He is Al-Mustafa and Al-Mujtaba, of everything that is to take place until Yawmul Qiyamah, meaning the day of judgment. We also learn that to raise an objection about the knowledge of the unseen of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was and is a way of the munafiqeen, the hypocrites. وَلَا يَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ يَبْخَلُونَ بِمَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ هُوَ خَيْرًا لَهُمْ بَلْ هُوَ شَرٌّ لَهُمْ سَيُطَوَّقُونَ مَا بَخِلُوا بِهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَلِلَّهِ مِيرَاثُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرٌ. And those who act miserly in respect to that which Allah has bestowed upon them by His grace must never think that it is good for them. Rather, it is bad for them. Soon, that in which they were miserly shall be a collar in the form of a snake around their necks on the day of resurrection. And only Allah is the owner of the heavens and the earth, and Allah is aware of your actions. Acting miserly is referring to the paying of zakah from that wealth which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon them by His grace. One must never think that miserliness is good for them. Rather, it is bad for them. Soon that in which they were miserly, namely the obligatory charity of their wealth, shall be a collar in the form of snake around their necks, meaning biting viciously at them on the day of Qiyamah. In addition, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner of the heavens and the earth and whatever is in between them. So should there be stinginess for spending in His path? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is fully aware of your deeds.
के मालिक गुजारिश है तुझसे मेरे दिल में कुरान बसा मेरे